Good morning, friends. This morning I want to share a poem with you titled "And God Saw I Was Good" by Andrea Simmons. In the beginning, I started out smooth, like a glassy surface of the sea, unarmed by life's winds or touch. I was without form and void, but God knew better. God breathed in the breath of life and created a living being. The Spirit of God hovered over me, wondering what to do. What color hair? What family? How many freckles to fleck on my shoulders? What way should my smile make my mouth bend? Then God said, "Let them be filled with light, hope, and laughter. Let them have imagination, and let them create." Then God added all of those little things that make me so special and make me different, but still kin to the earth and stars. And God saw me and said, "You are very good." Let's settle in. Welcome to worship, friends. Please hold Dot Mason's sister, Marianne Stafford Noland, in the light. Her husband, Jesse Noland, passed away on January 28th. She is in need of love and support. We hold Megan Hoffman in special prayer for success in an upcoming medical procedure, and Jack Kirk in the light as he deals with skin cancer. We continue to hold Deborah Seuss's dear sister, Laura Lee, in prayer as she grieves the loss of her husband, Bill. Please hold Laura Lee, Bill's daughter, Kathy, and Kathy's family in the light. Gordon and Edith Shepard's cousin, Martha, has passed away. Prayer is needed for Martha Shepard's son, Rob. Please continue to hold Roberta Rudder's older sister, Henriette Washington, in the light. She is currently under hospice care in Atlanta. We hold Etsy Ray as she recovers from both vision and hearing concerns, and Cassandra Israel, who is recovering from a broken ankle and is now beginning to walk using a boot. We continue to uplift Jean Small as she grieves the loss of her dear husband, Fred. Steve, Helen, Megan, and Brian in prayer after the passing of June Hoffman, and Colette and Leah Edwards as they grieve. I invite you to pause and take time to center in prayer as we bring every joy and celebration, every fear and sadness into the light. God, may we be fully aware of your peace that endures, your presence that cheers and guides, your strength for today, and bright hope for tomorrow. Amen.
Friends, I bring the reading today, Ecclesiastes 4, verses 1 through 12. Again, I saw all the oppressions that are practiced under the sun. Look, the tears of the oppressed with no one to comfort them. On the side of their oppressors there was power, with no one to comfort them. And I thought the dead who had already died more fortunate than the living, who are still alive. But better than both is the one who is not yet born and has not seen the evil deeds that are done under the sun. Then I saw all the toil and all skill in work come from one person's envy of another. This is also vanity and chasing after the wind. Fools fold their hands and consume their own flesh. Better is a handful with quiet than 2 handfuls with toil and a chasing after the wind. Again, I saw vanity under the sun, the case of solitary individuals without sons or brothers, yet there is no end to all their toil, and their eyes are never satisfied with riches. For whom am I toiling, they ask, and depriving myself of pleasure? This is also vanity and an unhappy business. There is a value of a friend, for 2 are better than 1, because they have a good reward for their toil, and if one were to fall, the other will lift them up. And woe to one who is alone and falls and does not have another to help. And then again, if 2 are together, they keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? And though one might prevail against another, 2 will withstand one, and a 3-fold cord is not quickly broken. Good morning, friends. It is a joy to be with you this morning, and a joy to bring you this prepared message, which has been published by Friends Journal. Now, I'll start with a personal confession. Post-apocalyptic literature and films has long held a fascination for me. I gravitate towards this fiction. Ever since discovering World War I gear stashed in the basement of our home in a metro Philly neighborhood when I was 6 years old, I've wondered what it's like to live amid catastrophe and chaos. I had wondered how I would behave, how I would talk, how my loved ones and neighbors would survive. Thriving during an apocalypse was not something I imagined. Today, not only do I imagine it, I can see evidence emerging that a new way of being in community is already occurring. The pre-COVID world in the U.S. was one that assumed that our economic system, our way of life, our extractive treatment of the environment was a right given us no matter who was our elected leader. Our economic system creates a narrative that our way of life, growth at any expense, chronic gaps between the wealthy and the impoverished, and damaging the environment was a necessary evil. It's really only recently that we've begun to have very difficult conversations on true belonging. Our meeting is currently reading the book Caste by Isabel Wilkerson. This author noted, no one was white before he or she came to America. James Baldwin once said, their geographic origin was their passport to the dominant caste. The European immigrants' experience was decisively shaped by entering an arena where Europeanness, that is to say whiteness, was among the most important possession one could lay claim to. Yale historian Matthew Fry Jacobson has said it's their whiteness, not any kind of New World magnanimity, that opened the golden door. No, all of this has been happening all at once. It's been catastrophe, disaster, and astonishment. And no reasonable person would expect that the entire world could stop in the blink of an eye and reconsider ourselves. And yet, most countries have paused off and on over this past year. Yes, we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of this pandemic. And we have witnessed transformations within the environment, transformation of people, and policies in many countries. And friends, I offer to you that we are and have been living in the post-COVID-19 world. And we might also want to consider that we live in a post-climate change disruption world and an undoing racism world. And while tears have been flowing this year as our educators and families struggle with all the changes and all the things, and we have struggled as a people wondering how will the U.S. work moving forward, a question that rose for me the entire time is, what if we knew we all belonged? What if we believed we are all in a union of trust and hope and love, even as we mark this first anniversary of the pandemic? And throughout this time, friends' meetings in my region have stayed in contact with one another, learned from one another while charting individual responses based on the culture of each meeting. In a new way, we are ensuring that we know we belong to one another. Our monthly meeting has created that COVID-19 working group. Other meetings created task force or small working groups to collect the science while listening for the cares and concerns within meeting. A few have held outdoor worship or small faith group circles, placing chairs at least 6 feet apart, wearing masks, turning into a radio station specifically created for them. And many of us have found distant friends returning to visit, and new people arriving to become regular attenders through weekly Zoom worship. In our community, our committees and monthly meeting have continued to meet via Zoom, and all who come to the friendly virtual world receive support from our tech team. Others who did not are included through old-fashioned outreach, phone calls, mail, cards sent through the U.S. mail system, as slow as it is. And we ensured that every person knew they belonged. We zoomed forward into a new commitment to undo racism, to improve our care for the environment through recycling programs and through thinking about solar energy in our buildings. Now, imagine with me, appreciating that there is a spirit, the holy, a mystery I call Christ, within and around us. Imagine a universal Christ flowing like water, blowing like that wind, surrounding us, penetrating us, flowing from us to others. Then we might know we all belong to one another in all creation. We extended our belonging to the broader community, both in undoing racism, earth care, and care in the form of selecting leadership. This belonging is created. It is thoughtful, deliberate, and spiritual. As we experience tremendous disruption today, we benefit from opening our capacity to see and hear others, becoming open-hearted, connecting with others and all creation. And through becoming open amid upheaval and grieving, we can co-sense and co-create the way to move beyond surviving towards thriving in this new world. Holding this as our future possibility serves as a friendly framework for pausing to see the great potential we have as we live in our post-COVID-19 world. We often call a gathering of people seeking spirit a meeting or a church. And when the meeting works well, community life is generative. Our belonging to one another is evident when a cord of three is not quickly broken. Diana Butler Bass noted that our early church offered a location for engaging with pathways to living beyond life's miseries here and now. Changed lives occurred because there's changed hearts, minds, changed actions, and so life within these communities changed for the better. Without being in community, the people suffer terribly. As Hannah Arendt said, we are in a collective state of homelessness on an unprecedented scale, rootlessness to an unprecedented depth. This social domicide and derooting makes us long for a place we call home and a group to call home, to call our own. And this is a belonging crisis. In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, belongingness is the third basic need required for our psychological health and development. Without it, we are bowling alone, longing for a team to play on. People in our communities have been suffering loneliness, anxiety, and other adverse conditions related to a lack of belonging. Process theologian Sally McFaig and good Quaker friend Doug Gwynn, even Pope Francis, all point to the same core mystery of faith. If we can forge a life together with shared confidence, we might find life is improved. We will name the harm of our current economic system. We will name the harm to our planet. But more importantly, we will commit to making the changes needed to restore right relationships. Our home, our earth, is one manifestation of Christ, the body of God. We have scarred our earth, and yet our earth heals. In just a handful of weeks last year, we saw a change for the better, and we can heal if we tend our wounds. The real embodied mystery is that God desires our well-being. Our post-COVID-19 world has shown us a different pathway for our future. The earth is offering us an additional pathway for saving the earth. Our very lives depend on it. And feeling for one another, compassionate witnessing the suffering of others enables us to belong to one another in a way that shows we are committed to alleviating suffering. When we examine our own lives, we can bring our understanding, love, and compassion to the world. And compassion in action is needed today. I suggest to you we are already living in this post-COVID-19 world. The virus is here. It is not going away. And COVID-19 joins the pantheon of human ailments that we must deal with in daily life. In this moment of the pandemic crisis, we have glimpsed the vast pre-COVID inequities. Now we have witnessed the truth of our condition, and we are morally obligated to ask, what are we to do? Well, express real generosity and loving acts of growing and sharing food. Maintain compassionate physical distancing, acknowledging those workers who risk their lives today for one another, for us, keeping grocery stores open, taking the garbage out, and healthcare, helping one another heal. And we see corporations making a real commitment to reduce their carbon footprint through alternative energy sources. We're all committed to undoing racism, one small step at a time, starting with learning to see, hear, and speak in new ways. In our post-COVID world, thriving looks like witnessing the voices in the streets, calling to bring justice and mercy to all. As Reverend William Barber has been calling for the reconstruction of our society to build a moral society. Perhaps we can do this hard work. Perhaps we will be all light. When we allow light into our hearts and consciousness, we may do well to find the money to feed the children who are hungry. We may get the children the computers they need, help the teachers learn new ways of teaching and learning. We get internet connectivity to the neighborhoods who have not been connected all year so that they can stay safe and continue to learn. Moving into this post-COVID world, we want to be more deliberate in caring for everyone's health. We want to ensure that everyone has enough healthy food to eat. And we will need to be prepared to continue this compassionate physical distancing. We've learned that much of our work can move to the virtual space, like we're doing right now. And when we are in physical proximity once again, we will be very careful with one another. And yes, we will worship together. We will pray, play, and laugh together again. Our universal Christ teaches us that life has a beauty and goodness and critical opportunity to be the change we wish to see. I see sparkling skies and the restoration of the fragile life at the ocean's edge and in the ocean's depths. And I commit to the following. I will pollute less, consume less, care more for the vulnerable people in my congregation, neighborhood, and the world. Love will not let us go. Love abides. So when you next enter worship, either alone or in community, consider this query. When thinking about our post-COVID world, what will we, each of us, do to be the change we wish to see? God bless you, friends.